Welcome to Book Fairies First Look. I'm your host, Micki Bare. Today, we welcome Gillian McDunn. Gillian is the award-winning author of middle grade novels Caterpillar Summer, The Queen Bee and Me, These Unlucky Stars, Honestly Elliot, and the forthcoming When Sea Becomes Sky. Her books have received various honors, including being named Best Books of the Year by Kirkus and Parents Magazine, chosen as Junior Library Guild Gold Standard Selections, and nominated to 8 state reading lists, including the Texas Bluebonnets Master List. Her most recent book, Honestly Elliot, was named a Schneider Family Book Award Honor Book by the American Library Association and received 4-starred reviews. Gillian loves to do crosswords with her very sharp pencils, visit different beaches, bake gluten-free treats, and spend time with her family. Originally from California, Gillian now lives in the Triangle area. Welcome, Gillian. Thanks so much for joining me for Book Fairies First Look.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
So before we get into the questions, I want to share a little bit about When Sea Becomes Sky. Bex and Davy Summer in the salt marsh is different this year, thanks to the record-breaking drought. Even the fish seem listless, and each day the water level lowers farther. When they discover a mysterious underwater statue, they're thrilled at the chance to solve the puzzle of its origin. But when they learn of a development plan that will destroy their beloved marsh, they need to act quickly. Unfortunately, sometimes progress happens whether you're ready or not. What will it mean if Bex and Davy lose their corner of the marsh where the otters frolic and dragonflies buzz, their favorite place to be siblings together? Gillian crafts a gorgeous story of love and siblinghood, of secret statues and island life, of holding on and letting go. Gillian, this sounds amazing. So I want everybody to really think about this whole storyline. But your first sentence starts off in a big way. Some summers are the funnest, and some summers are the longest. But our summer was perfectly ordinary until the day we found the hand. So first, why are first sentences so important? And then I want to ask you another little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, so I love first sentences. I actually have a big file where I collect them, and I just feel like they're just sort of this special little window into the book. You really get that that first chance to kind of make that bond with your reader. And I think this might be my favorite first sentence I've ever written because it is such a surprise. And I think that, it's been so fun to, especially to see kids react to that line because their eyes get really big and then they're like, well, we have to hear more. What else is going to come? So I think it sets the stage for a lot of the elements of the story that are like, mystery and adventure and all the fun that's going to happen.
And you're good at this, but walk us through this one. What did you want the reader to hook into specifically when you started this first line?
So that's a really good question. So I guess, one really important part of the story is that Bex is a writer. When we meet her, she has some writer's block. And when I was writing that first sentence, I guess I wanted to put a little bit, I mean, I don't know how much will be absorbed just by hearing that sentence, but some of my thought was that I want you to feel that Bex is nudging the narrative a little bit, even from that very first line, because it's very much from her perspective, this story. And so I think it's important that you get the voice early on, and then you get kind of I guess I like it when a first sentence has that kind of little bit of a twist to it. So you're kind of like, here we go, like that's so nice. And then you think there's something that's going to be a surprise. Yeah, exactly. And there are some surprises ahead and stuff with this story in particuer. So
I love that. Yeah, because it does set you up for that. Yeah. And it does give you that. You're reading this. Oh, that's nice. Wait, what? So that's it does its job for sure. So 11-year-old Bex and 9-year-old Davy are siblings who spend every day in that salt marsh near their island home. Can you talk about why you set the story in the salt marsh?
Yeah, so I'm from California, like it said in my bio. I've lived in North Carolina now for 13 years, and I'm kind of in love with this part of the country. Just like geographically, there's so much to explore here. There's so much that I love. So my first book was at the beach, and my second book was kind of more Piedmont, and my third book was in the mountains. The fourth book was based on Durham. I always kind of rename things, take a little license there. But this was an area that I thought would be really fun to write about. The salt marsh, especially, I think, is a kind of interesting place because it's a place of different things coming together. So you've got the salt water and fresh water. You've got life that can withstand both of those extremes. It's just a really dynamic part of our region, and it's really special. A lot of the wetlands that exist are in the southeast, so I thought that that would be a really fun place to explore. I love writing about nature. I love writing about animals. My main characters tend to also really like those things. So it was just a really rich area to dig into.
Yeah, that's exactly the word I was thinking. It's so rich and so many things that can change, and it's so different yet so amazing every time you're out there. So anybody who's not from North Carolina, because we do have some folks that do watch from other places, yeah, I think this is probably one that can really connect you to that coastal environment and life. So well done. All of your books explore friendship and family dynamics, but When Sea Becomes Sky is different because it also has a mystery. So can you talk a little bit about how crafting the mystery affected your writing process? Because it is going to be different than writing just, you know, another type of story.
Yeah, for sure. So this was, yeah, my first mystery. And you know, so what you find out in the book, you find out very early on, this isn't much of a spoiler, but when Bex and Davy explore that little thing they see sticking up in the water, it's actually part of the arm of a statue. It's like a full, you know, full-bodied statue, and they have no idea. They're out in the salt marsh. It's this little part of the salt marsh where they're the only two people who are really ever there, and they have no idea why the statue got there. The water level has been going down because there's a drought at the time, so that kind of explains why it's been under cover, but that it doesn't explain why or how it got there. So an interesting thing, they are doing a lot of investigating, and there's also, you know, they're putting together clues. They're trying to figure out where that statue come from. And mysteries, I think, are really fun and interesting for the author because let's see, I guess you're kind of doing this thing where you're going along with like your major plot points, and I feel like those are like stepping stones, but then you also have to be laying out like a layer of breadcrumbs because you want your reader to look back and see some of the trail that you were leaving and some of the ways you were pointing, but not have it be too obvious. So it just felt like every scene was doing double or sometimes triple duty.
Wow.
And I know that some of the people who have been early readers have read it and said that they just went back and like reread it again. And that is such a big compliment, but it's also such a fun, I know that feeling too, when you're really like, oh, now I want to go back and see how that was done.
Yeah, because you're like, wait a minute, did she say, okay, I gotta go out. Yeah. That's pretty cool to do. So did it take longer to write than the process, or was it about the same, just different?
Yeah, that's a good question. This was a really interesting process for me because this is actually like some of the elements of this story are things that I've wanted to tell for a very long time, like since I was a middle grade age person, and I haven't been able to figure out how. So certain parts of this book came out really quickly. It came out very quickly in the draft stage. It was honestly, it was probably about 3.5 weeks for the first draft. And then I spent a ton of time on it because this book is you know, everybody's like, they're always like books like from our heart, like from deep in this, but this one really does have quite a bit of like my soul in it. It's very personal story. Feel really attached to it. So I did some things and spent more time on this book and worked harder on this book than probably anything I've ever worked on in my entire life. I did like there's an author named Roseanne Perry, I'm sure people are familiar with. She had put a little clip on her Instagram that she prints out her manuscript when she's revising, and then she highlights every single verb. And it was one of those things where I was like, oh, that's a lot. I'm not going to do that. But then I'm like, maybe I'm going to do that. But I have a terrible printer. So I wrote out every single verb. Like, it was really cool thing to do. I don't think I would do that with every book, but it was really cool for this one. It let me see some things that I was using verbs kind of close together that were the same or similar, and just kind of made me focus on using, everybody knows how important verbs are, like trying to get the best ones. So anyway, all of that to say is like, I did spend a lot of time like figuring out plot, like the plot and some of the big picture things came together really quickly, but I also really wanted to polish the language. And I really wanted to make this my shortest book ever. I want it to be like a little gem, like something like a lot in a little package. So I wanted to get it to be under 30,000 words, which I did. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, okay, early in the book, you already talked about Bex being a writer. So Bex and Davy have this spirited argument about books. Bex doesn't like books that make her cry. Davy says books are supposed to make you feel things. I think that's the entire point of the book. Can you tell us more about that discussion that they have? And are you more like Bex or Davy?
Yeah. So yes. So I mean, I personally am definitely a Bex. I like books that will take me on an emotional journey. I will go pretty much anywhere if I'm invested with a character. Like, go ahead, like take me places. And with middle grade, hopefully leave me in a place where there's some hope happening as well. But I really do like books that make me feel strong things. I did want to kind of show both sides though of that idea, because I think it's also completely valid that people might want to read for escape or for some other reason where they're not as interested in experiencing like a big emotional range, and I think that's completely fine and valid too. So the fight, like the little argument they have, is because Davy is rereading a book that he's read many times forever, and she just says it's one with a farm animal on the cover. Like, I was imagining Charlotte's Web, and she's just like, how that's going to turn out. Like, it's going to make you cry. Why do you want to do this to yourself?
Aww.
But he says you wouldn't feel so sad in the book if you didn't like the characters so much, and that the whole book wasn't sad, that it really is like happy and sad mixed up together, and that that's the point of a book. So I'm more of a Davy. Did I say I was a Bex? I'm more of a Davy. Yeah, I definitely want.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's helpful to hear read-alikes to get to know more about a story. What 3 books might be considered comps to When Sea Becomes Sky? So really, like if they like those books, they might like this one too, kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So I've mentioned that there is that kind of like art mystery happening in the book. And so I would say like, as like, I don't know, a classic comp would maybe be if you like From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil Lee Frankweiler, there's definitely that siblings trying to figure out an art related mystery. I might also mention, let me think. So like Bridge to Terabithia is, they in that book, they have a kind of like special little world that is just the 2 friends, and that there's probably some parallels to be drawn there. And maybe also When You Reach Me, just structurally, they're I think that those are the 3 that I think that I would just say, if you like those, there might be some things in this one you would like to.
Awesome. And of course, all of your other books I think are really good reads. So your style right there, having that influence on it, that's
so
that's a good start. So now I'm sure you're doing lots of stuff as far as marketing. How can readers, educators, librarians, all those others keep in touch, up to date, schedule things? Where are you on social media? Mostly, how can they connect?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and Twitter as Gillian McDunn, and I'm pretty reachable on both of those forums. My website, Gillian McDunn, has information about upcoming events. Sometimes there's virtual events and things that are in person. I always love to see readers at those. And I actually have a newsletter that comes out every month that people might be interested in. I usually try to have writing tips and book updates. I also do giveaways almost every single month, which is sometimes like books, but sometimes it's also coffee and other kinds of different things. I have given away Lego sets, like all kinds of different things. So that's something that that I really enjoy. It's actually become a little bit of a community because it's called Letters from Jillian. So I write it like it's like a letter from a friend more than like a newsletter kind of thing. So yeah, so it's really been nice. It's kind of led to some correspondences, and like, I don't know, it's just it's a really great little group. So I tend to put my news there first, and I also love to talk about craft. So sometimes I'll get a question about certain things, and I just will throw together a little information. So if people like to talk about craft or to talk about book stuff, like that might be something to check out.
That's great. That sounds so interactive and supportive, and I love that. So what is next for you? I know you're going to tell the folks that get the newsletter first, so y'all have to sign up for that. But what
Right.
can you tell us? New projects coming up?
Yes.
Anything that you can kind of give our little viewers?
Yeah, definitely. And my newsletter people do know this already. So there's no title
Okay.
yet. So I can't say the title, but I do have one planned for 2024. I got bit kind of by that mystery bug. This is a little more of a mm, well, like a more traditional mystery. So it is about a boy who his family has moved around a whole bunch and he's kind of ready to settle down, and they move into this cool apartment building, and he thinks it's kind of going to be a home base for them for a while. But the first night they're there, a ruby necklace is stolen. And so kind of creates a lot of upheaval in the building. So he and a friend start to investigate and have some twists and turns along the way. So yeah, it was a really fun one to write. So I'm excited about that for sure.
Oh, that does sound fun. So you've already started that?
Oh, that one, yeah. I've done my first, yeah, I've done my first revision on it, and I'm
Wow.
waiting for my second and hopefully last editorial letter, because I think it'll need to be wrapped up pretty soon. But hopefully, spring-ish next year is when that one will come out. So
Wow. That's exciting. We're looking forward to that. Well, thank you so much for taking time to talk with me today, Gillian. We are looking forward, of course, to When Sea Becomes Sky release, and also your upcoming books. And so glad that you got bit by that mystery bug. Because really, yeah, this is a great direction to go, and all good stuff. So thank you so much for joining us and talking with me today.
of course, anytime. Thank you so much for having me. It was really nice to chat with you.